busy week around here. But we are here today to talk to you all of our friends, family, and followers about RESPECT. Yeah, we're not going to sing for you. I mean, we could.
You wouldn't want to hear that.
But no. We will just cut it off right there and get down to the point. So, in today's Fri YAY 5-minute-ish Fri YAY episode, we are talking about respect on so many different levels.
Yeah.
But there are a few different points that we want to make today. Today kind of comes from the past several weeks we've been talking to you all. If you've been following along with our Fri YAY episodes, we've talked to you about outsourcing your marketing and how to work with that business, and how to just get on the same page. That's a huge part of this process, the onboarding process. And we want to share as much insight into our world, even if you're not working with us.
And give you some education, so that way you have a smooth sailing process, efficiency, and everything just goes nice.
Yeah, nice and smooth and easy and pleasant and successful across the board for you and for whoever you are bringing in to help you with your business. So today, respect. We are going to talk about respect and from a few different points of view. So first of all, just coming off of where we left off with the last episode, just respecting those things that we've talked about in the past. And making sure that you're getting the respect you deserve too, with those working hours, with those lines of communication, with how you all work together. The next piece of that, though, that I feel like is really important is time spent on a project.
Yes.
So, Kara, can you elaborate on what we mean by respecting the time spent or being spent on a project?
I think the biggest thing is just knowing that we do put time and effort, so being able to give us the correct information up front, or that you immediately have a change of heart in what you want, telling us right away. There's nothing worse of a feeling to us, and not only that, your time and your money spent on, if you spend 20 hours on something and someone comes in and goes, oh, but I really want this instead. Well, that's more time and money, and also for us, it's not fun either. It's not that it's not fun, it's just, I feel like it's not like a sense of like accomplishment, I guess is a good way to put it.
Right, exactly. So we just want to make sure that, when you're working with us or any piece or part of your marketing with someone else at all, that everyone gets exactly what they need and want. So having those kinds of decisions and choices made and being very clear on them up front. And there will always be an outlier. There will always be...
And you might change your mind. Don't be afraid to tell us that. That's why we set up these reviews and these check-in points and bring in, these are your options. Well, does A and B follow your kind of idea, or do you want to scratch all of them and this isn't what I want to go in this direction? Be honest.
So this actually just came up recently with one of our clients. We were chatting back and forth. I was texting back and forth with this client, which is not typical, but I like to text back and forth with her. So she had actually I will use this as an example. Yesterday we were texting back and forth, and she was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm being such a pain in your rear. I'm probably driving you crazy. But it was the exact polar opposite situation. So what works the best for us, and I'm sure this is just in the creative industry completely, this is probably just across the board. What works best for us is having clients who have their decisions and their choices, their sense of style, and they know exactly what they want. The worst thing that can happen for us is to someone come to us, go through a project, and just say, okay, yeah, that's great. And then at the end,
they're not happy with the final product.
They're not happy. That's the absolute worst case scenario. So we want to hear those. We want to hear the details that you expect and want and need. We want to make sure that, if we're finishing up this website and you're looking at it and you're like, I don't really like the layout of the homepage. Why is there, this weird sidebar on the side that can that, just bringing it to our attention and saying, can that be removed, or can we put it on the other side?
Because also sometimes as creatives, we can visually see exactly what we're talking about, but that doesn't necessarily mean the client can translate what we're saying into their own image. So sometimes the translation is lost in what we talked about, and then on the screen, and a client will go, oh, this wasn't what I thought it was going to be. Make sure you feel comfortable to say, this isn't what I thought. I think we had mistranslation. Do you mind if we do X, Y, and Z? Yes.
Exactly. So that we could go on forever about. Obviously, we have very strong opinions on how respecting a time on a project or respecting the time of whoever you're working with can go. But the last part is even bigger than that. So
Yes.
For the love of everything. No, we don't want to make this ranty. We don't want to make it negative. But we see it all the time, and there's just a lot of questions out there from business owners who aren't in the creative industry, who just honestly don't know. So asking questions is the best thing you can do. And one of the questions we get most frequently is like, so am I allowed to search Google and find just an image to use and download that and use it as my own? Probably not, is the answer. So as creatives, we've kept saying this over and over again in the last few weeks' episodes. Creative work is
Precious.
It takes your whole being. Like, we pour ourselves into creating in the creative process. So it can be extremely exhausting on a lot of levels, physically, emotionally, mentally, all of the above. And so when someone has taken the time to create this work, we want you to respect that and to know that not everything on the internet is just up for grabs or up for your
Property
use.
rights.
There are rights. There's actual laws and rights. And so we want to talk to you a little bit about copyright law, which we're not lawyers. We're not legal advice here.
Don't know the exact terminology,
but we can tell you from our perspective and give you some actual examples that have happened in real life to us that we think are relevant to you all. We'll give you some good ideas of what to do and how to do it, and where to go to find those things that you do have access to or the rights to use.
And how to also, if you do like something, how to give the rights to the artist to be able to use it.
Right. A little photo credit goes a long way.
Yes.
So copyright law, I'm not going to get into the weeds of it, like I said. We're not legally allowed to do that. We're not lawyers here. We're not attorneys. But what we can tell you is that there are very clear boundaries, and most of those boundaries are set into wherever you're searching. Like, if you go into Google, you can actually search for images, but you can go up into the tools section, I believe, and you can drop that menu down and look for images that are specifically marked for commercial reuse with modifications, so you can change that image and make it your own, and you don't have to give photo credit, you don't have to give you don't have to pay for it, anything like that.
And there are some websites that you can use this as well, where they are completely free, up for grabs, you don't need to give credit, and some that allow you to use them and they give you exactly what to say to give credit to the artist.
Right, in particular formats or places, like if you're using it on a website, you might need to give credit and put in a byline of where that came from. Whereas if you're using it for print material, there may not be a requirement for that.
Correct.
So Kara, what are some of your favorite places, different websites and resources for that?
I think my top two that I personally use the most for photos is definitely Unsplash. They have great quality. They have such a large amount of photos that you can choose from. It's so easy to download. You just click the button. There you go.
And they're so beautiful. The
They're
photos on
gorgeous.
Unsplash are not your typical stock photos.
And
A lot of
large.
stock photos you look at and you go, yeah, that's a stock photo. I can tell from a
These
mile
look
away.
like personal bloggers, influencers, photographers have just taken photos. It looks like someone who actually knows what they're doing, but was at home with their family, just took the photo. They're beautiful, they're wonderful, they're one of a kind, which is great. But the second one I use a lot is Fri YAY. And Fri YAY has not only, some graphics and some images, the free pick you do have to credit the artist. You can manipulate without having to share the artist if you're doing some of the graphics, but if you're doing images, you do have to credit.
Yeah, those are just a couple of the great resources. If you want more,
those are the free ones.
Yeah, those are the free ones that you don't have to purchase the rights to. You can go on. There are tons of other sites out there that you can have a membership to. If you're doing it on a regular basis, it might be worth it to you to go into one of those paid sites and pay a monthly membership fee and have just whatever kind of access, like whether it's set amount of pictures or images you can use per month, or if you go up to an unlimited account. And then you have probably a lot of these free sites, you might see those images in a lot of different places. There's one in particular that I think of that everyone in anything related in real estate, I've been seeing it being used.
Yes,
you know it's
exactly
the really pretty
about.
blue house, right? And it's got kind of like the purpley sunset behind.
Yeah, there's some certain,
I've
stock
seen
photos and signs of people like holding up things.
Right. I've seen that one particular image probably used maybe 5 or 6 times from 5 or 6 different pages or places in the past 6 months alone. So, you might want to go somewhere where you have, or if you're doing it that often, just hire a photographer to do a branded shoot for you. That's also an option.
That's
and then you can buy the rights, right? You can buy the rights though. So that's something else, is knowing when you are hiring someone to either take some photos or design some graphics, is that yours or theirs? Who actually owns that at the end of the project?
Are you buying or are you renting?
Ooh. And that should honestly be all laid out in your contract. There should be a clause in there that states specifically who has ownership of whatever that material is. And if you don't have a contract, like just make sure that you know that up front and have that conversation. So I have a couple of examples. Let me do a little story time here. You know me, I like to tell stories. So I have 2 kind of big stories that I want to share. I'll try and condense them and make them fun to listen to here quickly. But one is from my first client ever. One that I was working with, and I was going to community events, taking photos, writing about those events for his blog, sharing them on his social media afterwards, putting them in his e-newsletter, the whole package, right? And then one day when I was in his office with him, one of his competitors' newsletters got delivered, and open it up and read through it. Copy and paste verbatim, and they took that image from the blog and put it in their newsletter with no credit, no saying where they got it from, just acting as it were their own. I know, your face. That was my face.
It just, and then it also makes you think, if you do know the information that they stole it, what does it say about them?
Well, so to me, here's my silver lining, right?
Right.
I was like, huge compliment. I'm killing it, man.
Right.
I am one person. This company has a whole marketing department of people. And I'm like, they're having to come and copy what I'm doing. So first of all, I'm like, I'm going to give myself a pat on the back for that one. And then secondly, I'm like, okay, that's annoying. Well, it continued to happen. It happened 3 months in a row.
Oh, that's not okay.
Right, before we finally said, hey, y'all need to stop stealing our stuff.
Right.
Like, if you could just quit, that would be great. Thank you. Please don't make us be mean about it, Or just give some credit. Like, put in the link to the website. Like, say where it came from.
Right.
But they knew where it came from, and they knew it was a competitor, and they didn't want to direct people to their competition. So that's one. That's, like, one of my favorite examples to show. And luckily, there wasn't any litigation or anything involved with that.
They just stopped?
They stopped. Like,
that's nice.
I'm pretty sure we just sent an email and said, hey, by the way, we noticed.
They're like, ooh, got caught.
Yeah. It was more just, like, embarrassing for them, I think.
Probably.
I don't know. If I could be a fly on the wall in that room. And then there's another kind of example. So with...
Well, maybe we should talk first about changing and manipulating.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about that first before we do story time. It can be a funny line of what you are allowed to change and manipulate and etc. But if you're working with an artist and someone gives you their rough drafts or even their final product, it's slightly disrespectful to then take it and manipulate it. It's one thing to talk to us and be like, hey, can we do this? Can we do that? Sure, of course. It's your design. But to take it and manipulate it or to copy and then not give the original credit, it's not a fine line.
So the fine line kind of lies in there in the space where, the project's not done and they've given you some options. Or so as an example, if it were a logo and the logo designer had given you, like, a lot of times we'll give you like 3 or 4 options to choose from, 3 different ideas or concepts, and then you get those concepts and then you take those and you send them to Billy Sue. Billy Sue, I like the name Billy Sue.
Yeah,
and Billy Sue's like, oh yeah, I can take that and do whatever you want with it. Well, first of all, I want to have a conversation with Billy Sue because that's just not quite right.
If you are an actual person in the creative field, you know right away that's no bueno.
Yeah. It's just
a common understanding, as well as it is a legal issue as well.
Right. So, just kind of toe the line and stop and think and say, all right, is this actually mine to use? Who's taken the time to create this? How can I, this is going to help my business, so how can I help them?
Right.
Because they've taken the time to create this and pour themselves into it, and
it's part of them too, because it's part of your creative mind that came up with the initial idea as well.
Right. So just have some respect, man.
Yeah. Communication. That's
right.
a big
Communication is absolutely a big part of this. So that's what we wanted to talk about today, was just sharing some examples and insight into our world as creatives of how to have that mutual, respectful, beneficial relationship and respect that, and make everyone happy, make everyone's lives easier and better.
Live cohesively.
Yeah, because we wanna have a good, solid working relationship. So we just wanted to shed a little light for those of you who are unfamiliar with this world into that topic. Now, next week's Fri YAY episode, we're gonna go in a totally different route. I feel like there's no segue from here to there.
There's not. It's a completely different chapter to open.
Right. So next week we are going to dig in and talk to you all about files, terms to know.
Mm-hmm.
So file types in our world, the different kind of programs we use and platforms we use, and try and just give you that foundational knowledge.
Educate. We want to educate you so that you can take the files, you know what you're talking about, and if you ever need to, you can walk into that meeting going, I know I need A, B, and C. The creative is going to be blown away that you even know what any of that means, and it'll help you in the long run to know exactly what you need.
Yeah, because we don't want you to walk in somewhere and just be overwhelmed with not feeling like you understand what was thrown at you.
Overwhelming.
A lot of creatives are kind of like to throw down some big words to scare people a little bit and make them feel smart, quite honestly. So we just want to make sure that you have that knowledge, and so that's what we're gonna do. Was next Fri YAY episode, we're gonna break down those terms to know and talk about some of that nitty-gritty stuff in our business. So hope this was super helpful. Hope you have a lovely Friday.
Oh, and a Memorial Day.
Don't forget to take a little time this weekend on Memorial Day to remember those who have passed and served their country. So it's not just all about the barbecues. So us military spouses over here got a little get a little serious about that. So just have a good one and a safe one.
Yes,
and
be safe.
Take some time to give some respect to those who have served. So thanks so much, you guys. Have a great weekend, and we'll catch you next week.
Bye.